and welcome to Life Lessons from the Reading School District. I'm Kristin Boyd, Director of Community Engagement. Today we have Stephanie Towles, who is a librarian at 16th and Haak Elementary. I'm going to let Stephanie introduce herself and just tell you a little bit about her background.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Towles. I've been a librarian with the Reading School District for about 9 years. I have mostly been at 16th and Haak, but I've also been at Glenside, and I've also been at Millmont, and I've also been at 10th and Penn. I enjoy what I do as a librarian very much. Reading has always been very important to me. As a student, I had a lot of favorite books that got me through a lot of hard times, because sometimes books are easier to get along with than people.
Absolutely. What were some of your favorites or ones that connected to you?
When I was in college, I really connected with poetry because of the emotion. But I think when I was, I work with elementary school students. So when I was in elementary school, it was really connecting with series, like the Laura Ingalls Wilde series and things like that. But it's a little different. Students still like to read books about series, but some of the subject matter has changed. But I didn't intend to become a librarian. This was a late career choice.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Initially, after college, I worked for Berks County. I was a caseworker with children and youth for 3 years. From there, I went to juvenile probation for 6 years. I always wanted to work with kids. I knew I wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to help kids who were struggling.
Why was that something that was kind of a passion for you?
I don't know. I think it comes from my experience growing up at Reading High. My friends from Reading High who didn't necessarily have the supports that I did, and so who I saw fall into bad situations. Kids who really could have been doing some amazing things, but they just didn't have the right supports in place. They didn't have anyone really take that interest with them. I was very lucky because I had a large network and I had a lot of people watching out for me. Yeah. So as I was working with kids through the county, I started to recognize that one of the things that had really been a saving grace for me was reading.
Wow.
And I realized that a lot of the kids I was working with didn't have that connection and had problems with their reading skills. But even more than just the skills, they had never really been exposed to a book that they really wanted to read.
Wow.
And so I was trying to help them make those connections. And that kind of led me toward the library.
So for you, and when you're kind of in class, what do you love to see? Is it introducing a book to a student, a character? Is it watching their face light up when they pick out their own book? What really kind of keeps you going every day?
I'm lucky in that I get to work with students from pre-K up through 5th grade. So there are different things for different ages. With the really young kids, the pre-K and kindergarten, as I read to them, I like to watch their expressions. And if I get a character who's doing something crazy or who's feeling something extreme, I'll say to the children, show me that face. And then all the kids sitting out there looking at me, I see like 30 faces all doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I love to do that. Or let me hear what that sounds like, or tell me what that feels like for you. With older students, I like to have that aha moment where they kind of know what they wanted, and they're used to relying on me or someone else to find it for them. And they say, where are the books about ghosts? Or where are the books about ancient Egypt? And I tell them, think about it. Where do you think they would be? What does the Dewey Decimal System tell you? And they actually go and they use the computer, and then they find the book exactly where it's supposed to be. And it kind of all suddenly connects, like, oh my gosh, things are actually where they're supposed to be. And it gives them that independence. Yeah. Because knowledge is power. And if you know how to find information, then there's nothing anybody can stop you from doing.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So it's being able to connect them to feeling autonomous and feeling like anything I want to know, whether in the future I have a question about my health, or I have a question about how to fix my car, or I have a question about what's going on in my community or my neighborhood, they will know that they can find the answers. And we're learning more and more how to do that digitally, but also sometimes how to find it in text. And we talk a lot about the public library. The public
Which you're involved with.
Yes, I'm the vice president of the Reading Public Library Trustees. The public library is such a treasure for the community.
I agree.
And I remember when I was in Southwest, when I was a student at Southwest, going to the main public library after school. And it was a place where I could just kind of go and lose myself. Whatever was on my mind, whatever, if I had seen a movie set in a particular time, or if I was wondering about particular kinds of foods, just whatever I wanted. And I could walk into the library without a dime and just have my library card and walk out with a bag full of books. And, that's empowering. I also like the fact that at the public library now, there's so much programming going on for kids. And it's a safe place. So when we worry about things going on in the neighborhood, or when we worry about the weather and different things that keep kids at home, the public library has an opportunity for so many things for them to do. So I try to make that connection between what we're doing in school, and I try to make reading fun. I'm not a reading teacher. I'm a librarian. I'm connecting kids to books that they'll love, and I'm hoping that will spill over so that they'll be connected to the public library as they are outside of school.
I know mentioning in the library, it makes me think of all of the things that you are either involved with in the community or that you volunteer with. And I mean, you hold such a full plate. One of the things you are really involved with is advocacy on many levels with a couple of different topics. Do you want to talk about that, why advocacy is important to you?
You're right. I am somewhat overextended, but that's because advocacy is important. And if you go back to the saying from the 1960s, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And so I take it as it's my charge to do things that will make this a better place for the people that are coming behind me. And people did that before me. And so I come from a family that has a long history of volunteerism. My grandparents, my grandfather, Reverend Jones, Reverend George Jones, and my grandmother, Frances Jones, were very active in volunteerism throughout their lifetime, well into their 80s, and they lived into their 90s. My mother's very active in volunteerism. I come from that as just being a given. It's just you're doing things to help others because there are so many who have less. So some of the ways I do that, I'm involved in a lot of organizations now, and to some people it may seem kind of scattered, but the theme is all very consistent, enriching public education for our kids.
Absolutely.
So I'm involved with the public library, as I mentioned. I'm involved with the United Way's Ready, Set, Read campaign, which is about creating opportunities for every student in Berks County to be reading on a third grade level.
Absolutely. I'm a Ready, Set, Read tutor. I love the program.
Yes.
It's making a phenomenal difference. I don't think not only in our district, but countywide.
And my mom's a tutor.
Yes,
my mom comes in and reads to the students. She's retired now. That's one of the ways she stays involved. So having students be able to read on grade level makes a long-term difference in their lives as far as their career. Data will show you how they end up career-wise, their mental health, their involvement with criminal justice and social agencies. All of that is affected by whether or not they're a strong reader in third grade. So I'm involved with that initiative. I'm also involved with the Reading NAACP. Up until very recently, I was the education chairperson. Now I'm an executive board member at large. Again, working on educating the community. And one of the things we're looking to educate the community on that's upcoming is the November elections. And 2 years ago, when we had school board elections, we had panels where we had the different candidates that were running come and be able to talk about what their priorities were. And it was an open forum where the community could ask questions. We did that with the Hispanic Center, and we plan to do something similar again this election cycle. I think people need to be involved. They need to know who's representing them. They need to know how to get the attention of those people that are representing them. I'm also very involved and have had a lot of training through the Pennsylvania State Education Association, which is the union, the state union that represents the Reading School District and most school districts in Pennsylvania. Through them, I've had a lot of formal training on advocacy, and I'm part of something called the ACE program, which stands for Advocates Continuing Education. And what we do is we go out and we talk to our elected officials. So I've had days where you go to Harrisburg and you meet with Senator Schwank and Representative Rozzi, and you explain to them how the issues that they're voting on are affecting our local schools. Too many times the people who are making decisions about what's happening inside school buildings do not spend time inside school buildings or with children, and they don't necessarily always understand all the implications. So that's an important program that I'm with. I feel lucky because my representatives for the jurisdiction where I live are all very good public education advocates. I wish that were true throughout the state, but it is in my district.
Well, I thank you for being a public education advocate and always supporting our district and our kids and then the community at large. I think what you do is fantastic, and the way that you give back is fantastic. So one more question before we wrap up, and that's just, what are you reading now? Like, I'm so curious to know kind of what's on your coffee table.
What's on my coffee table? We had 4 days of snow days.
Yes.
And it just happens that right before that, the snow days, I had gotten out a bunch of books. And so I just finished like 3 fantastic books. And the books that I had this time, I read a variety of genres. I go through different phases. But I've been reading books about how to set goals with spirit, how to make sure that your goals are aligned with what's going to bring you inner happiness, and how to make sure that that your spirit and inner feelings come through. And then I also had downloaded some audio books. Those were actually workbooks. Those were books where you read and you answer questions to help you gain insight to yourself. They were great. But I had also downloaded some audio books and read Lean In, which is the book about navigating the workplace for women, and I had heard a lot of good things about it, but I'd never actually read it. That was fantastic. That was an audio book, and I hope everybody knows that you can download them free from the public library onto your device, so you can listen to them in the car, or you can listen while you're washing dishes or doing laundry. It's a great way to get reading done when you don't have time to sit and hold a book in your hands. And I usually don't have time to hold a book in my hands. But with the break that we had last week due to the snow, I just felt so revitalized at the end. And after reading those books, and I felt like I had been on a retreat. It was a really nice break.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're happy that we're able to kind of put a face to your name, because I know many people are familiar with you, but maybe not your full story. So thank you for taking time to share that today. Again, this is Stephanie Towles, librarian at 16th and Haak and public education advocate. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.